republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'll have the clerk please call the roll.
Supervisor Fountain.
Here.
Clerk Chofiu here. Treasurer Horning.
Here.
Trustee Germain.
Here.
Trustee McMullen.
Here.
Trustee O'Connell. Absent. Trustee Petrucci.
Here. Thank you. Item number 4 is approval of our agenda.
Move.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Petrucci, second by Treasurer Horning. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Nobody here this evening for call to the public. We'll move on to item number 6, which is approval of our consent agenda.
So moved. Support.
Motion by Clerk Chofiu, second by Trustee Petrucci. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have 7 items this evening on pending and new business. The first one is a resolution to adopt poverty guidelines. And I believe, Amanda, you have the floor.
I do. Ooh, gosh. Hi. Oh, all right. Good evening. As you're aware, Heartland Township offers a poverty exemption program for low-income residents who may need assistance with their property taxes. These applications are reviewed by our Board of Review at their 3 meetings each year. Bill can attest to that. Historically, a resolution is brought forward annually to approve the guidelines that we have in place. Those guidelines are generally based on the federal poverty guidelines, and then because of the standard of living in Heartland Township, the board has authorized us to go 25% above those federal poverty guidelines annually. After discussions with the State Tax Commission earlier this year, I should say later in 2023, we found that we can actually create language in the resolution that will allow us to approve our guidelines once and have them set forward from this point on, instead of approving them annually. And that language basically sets forth that there's a 1.25% multiplier applied to the federal poverty guidelines that are issued annually. And then that resolution also states that the resolution is in place for the current year and years forward until the Board of Trustees decides that something needs to be changed with those standards. The resolution that is before you tonight also includes all of the guidelines. We used to have a separate resolution to approve the income guidelines, and then we have a separate set of guidelines that show the asset requirements and the filing guidelines. The resolution tonight includes all of that information into one document, so it kind of simplifies the system that we have, and moving forward, it will allow us to produce those applications for the residents by the 1st of each year, where right now we're kind of delayed in approving the resolutions till January or February. Those applications will be adjusted every year to show what our actual income guidelines, and I think there's a copy of that in the packet. The application will be updated annually to reference the guidelines based on what the federal poverty guidelines are, plus our 25% increase to account for the standard of living. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll move to approve the resolution adopting the Heartland Township Poverty Income Guidelines as presented.
Second.
Motion by Treasurer Horning, second by Trustee McMullen. Any questions? Comments? Being none, I'll have the clerk please call the roll on the resolution.
Trustee Petrucci.
Yes.
Treasurer Horning.
Yes.
Trustee McMullen.
Yes.
Trustee Germain.
Yes.
Supervisor Fountain.
Yes.
Clerk Chofiu's a yes. Trustee O'Connell's absent. Motion
Awesome.
passes.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Item number B is approve post-audit of disbursements between board meetings. I'm sorry. Resolution. That was one off. Resolution, Connect 3 Foundation charitable gaming license.
I move to approve the resolution recognizing Connect 3 Foundation as a charitable nonprofit supporting the Young Life Heartland organization for the purpose of obtaining a charitable gaming license.
Second.
Motion by Treasurer Horning, second by Trustee McMullen.
Yep.
Any questions, comments? And just for those at home, this is for a fundraiser to be held, I believe, at Walden Woods for the
Wild game dinner.
Wild Game Dinner. Being no other comments, I'll have the clerk please call the roll.
Clerk Schofield is a yes. Trustee Jermaine?
Yes.
Supervisor Fountain?
Yes.
Trustee O'Connell is absent. Trustee Petrucci?
Yes.
Trustee McMullen?
Yes.
Treasurer Horning?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item number C is cemetery management software purchase. Larry, is this coming from you?
Yep. We have been working with a homegrown cemetery system to track lot sales and records and research requests, lot preparation certificates, all of the record keeping. It entails us going into several different files to do a simple function such as a lot sale. You go into a single file to grab the information on an application. You then go into a separate file to log that information in. You then scan the document into a third file, and you basically go back to the main cemetery file and re-enter all the data in on a large spreadsheet. We've been looking at streamlining that process. We've been working on this off and on for the last couple of years. We actually finally got to looking at some cemetery systems that were out there. We looked at 6 different companies and looked at their products. We talked to 5 of those companies. We narrowed it down to 2 companies, and we really sat down and looked at everything on both a system application for what we're currently going to do, and what we're currently going to do is start with Hodge Cemetery. We also looked at the future applications to backtracking into the records for Heartland, Smith, and Parshville. The system that we thought fit both of those needs was SemSites. We did do some follow-up reviews with various organizations that use SemSites. We have one locally here in Livingston County. Conway Township uses them. They're very pleased with it. Basically, we were looking at just putting forth the effort towards streamlining our process.
Questions for Clerk Schofield?
Yeah, I noticed it was like a subscription base, so and it had 3 people on, or 3, I guess, users or whatever on there. Is that an annual amount that you'd have to pay?
The annual amount will be $1,200.
Okay.
Yeah, the initial cost will be about $8,000 to have them work with us in loading our current Excel files into the system and streamlining all of that. But the year-over-year cost is just going to be $1,200. The second place person that we looked at also had a very nice system, but they were charging like $1,500 a user. So at 3 users, their annual cost was closer to $4,000.
Okay. And it was, they're going to be backing up everything and
Yes,
all of that?
everything will be, it will be our data that they will will store, but they will not own any of our records, so it's our data that's being stored by them, so.
Yeah, and if I can touch on it really quick, one of the big benefits to this too is, as Larry had said, that this program and part of this package that we're looking at here this evening is SemSites to actually do the integration of all the data. If you look at trying to integrate the cemetery data that we have into a program is extremely time consuming and can be multiple people having to do that. So this is a portion of it. Also, Larry, like he had touched on, saying that the data is backed up in the sense that they back it up, but they don't own the data, we do. It's nothing that, if some sites were to completely dissolve, we still have all of our data.
And it's a fairly, I guess, even rate, or do you feel that they're going to be raising the rates for that every year?
For the licensing?
Yeah, for that and, I guess, user fees and things like that.
Well, I think right now, I mean, from what we have sat through, I think it's safe to say that it's going to hold steady for a while, but everything is subject to a cost increase at some point. Wouldn't be fair to say, no, it's not going to increase ever, but yeah.
Okay.
So Larry, if I understand, this is quite specific right now to Hodge,
Yes,
because that's the only place that you would be selling
that's correct.
any, so it's kind of getting it laid out ahead of time.
Yes, yeah. Some of the features that they offered were, visual tours and things like that, that would probably be something we would look at long-term for the Parshville and Heartland cemeteries, because people just really can't find anything in there. So if we could integrate that in, that's one of the long-range projects, but we won't see that for several years. So, but Hodge is where we're going to concentrate on.
And there's no availability in the Heartland Cemetery or the Parshville?
There are still lots that are owned that have not been
Got it.
used,
Okay,
but there's
got it.
no lots that are
Are for sale.
available for sale.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Being none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the purchase of some site cemetery management software and authorize the clerk to sign on behalf of Heartland Township.
Support. Put a dollar amount in there. Not to exceed whatever.
Okay.
8,000,
8,000.
8,950.
8,000 or whatever it is.
Not to exceed
Yeah.
$8,950.
And you still support that?
Yes.
So we had a motion by trustee McMullen and a support by trustee Germain. Any other comments or discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. And then we have fiscal year 24-25 Heartland Township Budget Review. And turn this over to Manager Luce.
Thank you, Supervisor Fountain. Good evening, everyone. And as Supervisor Fountain said, we're going to go through the fiscal year budget. This is, as requested, we talked in the last meeting about all other funds other than general fund. So I will go through these. I'll hit some key points and some highlights. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask along the way. We're going to start with the 204 fund, which is the municipal street fund. As you can see, with our road millage expiring in 2024, we do not have any assumption for next fiscal year because we can't make an assumption without the road millage being renewed yet. And also one of the items I would hit on would be paved road improvements in this. You see a substantial item there of 1.1 million. That is because of our CIP fund. Those are a lot of different projects we already have budgeted for in the CIP, which we discussed 2 meetings ago. So moving on to Fund 206, which is the fire operating fund. The big portion of this would be that the fire millage runs through 2025. So there's no significant change to any of this, with the exception of the normal operating. But the millage does run through 2025, so that is projected out in the 25-26 fiscal year as well. Next portion being the liquor law enforcement. You'll see we have a note down there on the bottom that the Heartland Fire Authority has been contracted to perform our liquor inspections. So this is, goes through the Heartland Fire Authority that they conduct those on our behalf. All right. Moving on to the M59 Road Improvements Fund. The assessment on this runs through 2032, and there's no notable or significant changes for this fiscal year in this line item.
When does this, does that mature?
What's that?
When does that fund mature?
2032.
2032?
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. The Mill Point Road Debt Service Fund, this assessment is through 2026. If you remember, we did the paving of Mill Point a while back, and so there's still a few years left on that. That is this fund in front of you, but other than that, no notable changes to that fund. The next one is Ballard Lake assessment, the road SAD. That is through 2028. No notable changes on this in this fiscal year either. Okay, oops. Skipped one on my sheet here. Okay, water system fund. And you all have a copy of this in front of you, correct? Okay. So, water system fund, couple highlights is, you'll notice that in fiscal year 25 and 26, we're going back to the 300,000 transfer for our 2021 study. That is the transfer from our 539s, or 539 fund, correct, Susan?
It's the transfer from 536.
Or 536 to the, yes.
Yep.
Yep. So that is, we had that projected higher in the past. Realistically, we have a lot of projects coming up in our CIP. We need to, try to cut that down a little bit and save some funds in that line item. And one notable piece of this is that right now, as this budget sits, this does not include any wage increases or anything for water staff at this point. We will have a discussion on that later this evening, but it's not included in this, what is shown right now. Okay. All right. Moving to water replacement fund. This fund, as you can see here, is the 300,000. It's depicted here. We had 170 the prior years, and we're projecting 300,000 as that transfer from the water O&M fund. That's, again, a lot of this is reflected in our CIP that we had discussed a couple meetings ago. The cable TV fund. A couple notable items in this. Nearmap is an annual service that the township utilizes for multiple different things. We use it in the planning department. It's used in the assessing department. It's used in public works. We've used it for road meetings. It's able to show aerials side by side of a past aerial view and a current aerial view with a flyover about every 6 months. You all have been pretty well versed in that, as Manager West had spoke about that before, but that comes under PEG as well, under software rental. And then we had reallocated the GIS project from the 2024 budget into this PEG fund. But Along with that, there is nothing specific budgeted for in this right now, but there is room for the replacement of some equipment should it be needed with cable channel and things like that. Anyone have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Okay. Okay.
Mike, we've talked a little bit about our server and such here, the PEX server.
Yep.
Are we anticipating looking at, seems like every 2 or 3 years we take another look at it, but.
Every couple of years we
Is that
have
something that you're going to plan on for this year?
If for this year, right now, from what our projections with it, no. And working with IT Right, which is now VC3, everything right now seems to be functioning properly. I think it's one of those that we look at every couple of years, and the last diagnostic on it, when we upgraded the hard drive space the last time, it freed up a lot of space for us, non-usable pieces and things that were taking up space before. So, yep. Okay, 590, sewer operations and maintenance fund. One of the notable things here is that we have not increased rates at this point. Obviously, we approved that a few meetings ago as well. And that I want to point out to you in here, if you do look through, we have updated the legal fees. They've increased due to our ongoing litigation. We would assume that it would be resolved next year, but we don't know yet. So that line item was increased. Moving on to Lake Tyrone Sewer SAD.
Can we go back just to the,
Yes, sir.
And we have Susan here this evening. Thank you for being here. Could you just give us an update where we are on the bonds in the timeline?
Right, so the timeline is still that we're going to pay off the 2019, or 2016 bonds early in 2025, so November 2025. And the refunding from 2021 is going to be paid off in 2031.
Yes.
And I don't have those updated numbers with me of, how much we can usually, what we calculated what the payoff is. And so we've got, Kathy worked with Huntington to come up with some investment accounts where we've got money earning more interest than regular, CDs. And so we've got those funds specifically being managed with the intention that we're going to use those funds to make the payments. So one of the items that you'll see in this budget in the 590 is we've got transfers over to the 595 fund, which is the sewer expansion, of exactly what we need to pay off the bonds. So the money technically sits in 590. We're going to transfer it over to 595 to make the bond payments. And with Huntington's investment group, they're assisting us with making sure that we have the money invested appropriately so that we will be able to make those payments.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Lake Tyrone Sewer SAD, no significant changes in this. For this fiscal year, it expires in 2034. So there's still some time left on that one. The next one is 595, which is the sewer bond, sewer expenditures and bonds. So this one is the assessment for Special Assessment District 4 through Special Assessment District 7. Those are over this year, correct? They expire in 2024.
They have one more year's of pay.
One more payment, yes.
One more year of receipts.
Yep.
Collections.
And SAD 4 supplemental would expire in 2025. And in the fiscal year '25 and fiscal year '26, the transfers from the 590 fund are covering 100% of the bond payments. That would be shown in our last portion of this here. All right. Forest Brook Hills, SAD, that one, no notable changes to it, obviously. The assessment on that runs through 2032. And Heartland Sewer SAD 200, no notable changes as well. The assessment runs through 2034. And our final one this evening is Road Special Assessment Districts. No notable changes to this. The assessment runs through 2032. Now, obviously I did go through that kind of quick, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Obviously, Susan is here this evening as well. She can answer any questions that you may have for her as well.
In the water system fund, the contracted services jumped 60,000. Is there a specific event there? I mean, we did 4,000, 5,000 is the forecasted, and then we jumped to 65 for the.
This, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the Public Works time, contracted services?
It is.
Yeah. Or wait a minute, no, contracted services is not. Contracted services, oh, this, this one is the addition for the Eagle.
Yes.
I talked earlier, or a while back, I should say. This is a mandate by Eagle that lead testing for lines or identifying lines.
Okay.
If you look, that's why it jumped like that, because adding the $60,000 gives us our percentage of what we would need for the next few years. Again, we are still working with Eagle to say, you know, to prove this system is it was put in 2001. We don't have any lead in our system anywhere.
Yeah, we call that, yeah.
But at the same time, we have to prepare that if Eagle says, thou shall verify $60,000 a year to contract someone to come in, we have to suck down and visibly verify 18 inches each side of that curb box.
Okay.
So thank you for asking that, Larry. That's a very good point.
We can add that to the notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be
Yep.
We'll add that to the notes as well. Thank you.
My question is, it's probably been a year since we talked about the Boyle model. Is it no longer necessary anymore?
No, it's really not, because we are so close to having all of our REUs sold. So if you
Yep.
remember the way the Boyle model and the bonds itself were issued, is we had, here's the special assessment districts, and here's how many REUs we need to sell to make, to support the SAD payments, plus the capital charge that we added to the bill. Well, Mike, you and I were just looking at how many REUs we have potentially left, around 130. And the Boyle model didn't assume that we were going to basically sell all of the REUs that we had
Yep.
available. And so really, that's why we're in the position of being able to look at paying off the bonds early, calling them early, rather than waiting until they naturally expire. So, no, I don't do anything with that great big mountain of work that I used to do. Not anymore.
That was my assumption, but I just want to clarify.
Kathy, I think Susan mentioned that you do investing. Do you do any investing with the fire fund?
It's limited because we don't get it till now, you know.
So you get it one
We're
chunk,
collecting in
but
the
it's,
tax.
okay.
But we pay it out quarterly. I mean, we had a year where we had to hurry up and make a distribution out of tax to
Right.
cover our payment to the fire. We don't really, we just keep
Because
it.
the way it
Right.
comes into the fund
Yes.
itself.
This is a good time to remind everybody that with the fire fund, we are collecting that money in advance,
Right.
and we use that to pay for the whole next year.
Right.
Right, so it's unlike the general fund, where we basically have got enough cash set aside, a huge surplus, not a huge surplus,
A
erase that, I didn't say
surplus,
huge.
a surplus.
A surplus.
That we can
We have a
invest.
good-sized surplus, but we don't need it to pay for the whole next year. With the fire authority and the fire fund, what we collect this year right now
We use.
is used for next year, next fiscal year. So Kathy's correct, there really isn't a great opportunity for her to make any significant investments.
Thanks for that update. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yep.
Any other questions? So in our process, just,
We're probably
Go ahead.
asking the same question. I wanted to know what is the next step to getting this resolved and completed?
that was my question, but what's the next step in our process?
So the next step will be our next meeting, February 20th. We will do the same thing, but we're going to go over the general fund budget. General fund budget generally takes up a little bit more time because there's a few more departments incorporated into it. We will go over that at the next meeting, and in turn, the first meeting in March will be the approval of next year's fiscal year budget. The second meeting in March would be any final budget amendments to this year's fiscal year budget. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Thank you. Anything else this evening? Susan, thanks for coming this evening. Appreciate that. We'll do our board reports. We'll start with Trustee Germain.
I have no report.
Trustee McMullen,
I have no report.
Trustee Petrucci,
No report.
Clerk Shofu.
Just a couple updates on the elections. We have all of our applications and all of our ballot selection forms out. We are starting to receive ballots back now on a daily basis. We will start early voting on the 17th and runs through the 25th, 9 days. It'll be held here in the Heartland Township Boardroom. That's pretty much it for the elections. You can, still pick up absentee ballots. And the other thing was Winterfest is this Saturday, and it's still going to be called Winterfest. But we're pretty pleased with the way it's turning out. We have two large craft show people, Garden Gate Montessori and Morningstar are both doing crafts for the kids. We will also have the cookie decorating in the crafts tent. WHMI will be out there live from 4 to 6 through the fireworks. We did a short interview with them this morning. They're supposed to run it tomorrow morning. We do have knockerball coming, so we will have activities, and we gathered up as many types of balls that we could find in the county to just have kids kick around. So we will have some soccer nets out there, and I think it'll still be pretty successful. Obviously, the Hero concession stand, so,
Fireworks,
yeah. And the fireworks, yep.
s'mores.
Well, Larry, on behalf of the board, thank you.
You go through a lot of plans, a lot of work.
You do awful lot of work
I
on
had
that.
some great help this year.
Yeah, so you and your team just did a really, really nice job.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
so thank you again. Hopefully see everybody there this weekend. Treasurer Horny?
Tax collection ends on leap year, so that's a Thursday. So then I'll be here processing anybody that put their stuff in the box on Thursday night at 5 o'clock. But that'll be our last collection date, will be that Friday. So,
Thank you. I have nothing this evening. Anybody else have any final comments? We'll take a brief recess, and our work session and for information and discussion, and we have our manager's report tonight, and the 2024-25 employee merit pool discussion. So we'll take a brief recess, and that'll be our work topic for this evening. And if we want to go right to it, did you want to go in that room?